Lady Charmaine, and my guest today exploded on the scene with an anthem that had every woman singing, I'm Not Your Superwoman. And then she followed it up with 3 more smash hits, The Way You Love Me, Secret Rendezvous, and Love Saw It. And she's here today to talk about her TVOne Life After episode, The Story of Karyn White. Help me welcome the Miss Lovely Karyn White to the show. How you doing, Karyn?
Oh, I'm wonderful. Such a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Oh, no, it is a pleasure to have you on this show. Because, see, I got to tell you, several years ago, I'm going to say several, your song was the first song that I had ever lip-synced publicly, Superwoman.
Wow.
Yes, the very first song ever.
Back in the day, huh? Oh, okay. So you were up there testifying, huh?
Yeah. I was look lip syncing because sister cannot sing. I leave the singing to you. So what I do, I use your vocals with my lips, and that's how I sing.
Oh, cool. Oh, that's fun.
So that's how I put it together.
Who knew, huh?
Exactly. I know, who knew. And I want to say happy belated birthday to you. Happy birthday.
Oh, thank you. Libra baby, October 14th.
And my daughter's
Me
October
and
12th.
Usher.
Oh, you and Usher's the 14th as well. My daughter's the 12th. Wonderful. Well, I know you have a Life After episode that's getting ready to air on Monday, October 22nd. Now, Karyn, I got to ask you a question. Were you surprised when they called you to ask you to do an episode of Life After?
No, not surprised. I was, really excited about it because I had, been approached to do unsung, but I had been recording and I'm like, well, I'm not anything. I just have unfinished business to do. So I didn't feel like that show was appropriate for me because I felt like I was, Life After is definitely what I was doing after being away from the industry and then being in a whole nother business and then coming back. So that's it appropriate, and I was excited about just that title. Life After.
Right. Because I'm really excited that they're doing a story on you because I know everyone, like myself, was wondering what you had been up to over the past several years during your, we're going to call it a little hiatus that you took for a couple of years from the industry. And now you are back.
Yeah.
Yeah. So now you're back. Really excited about that. But I do want to talk about your early years when you exploded on the scenes with the song Superwoman. And I think it was every woman's anthem that was going through a hurtful relationship and he really wasn't giving her the attention she needed. Let's talk about that song. Did you help to write that song? How did that song come about?
No, actually, that song was written by, incredible Babyface and L.A. Reid and Daryl Simmons. And for them to have the sensibility of what a woman would feel when I heard the lyrics, for me, I was so young. And I just really related to my mother, just about, to me, strength, being an overcomer. And, that's what my mom was. So really, for when I sang the song, I wasn't quite that woman yet. But today when I sing it, oh, of course, I'm like, oh, I've lived that. I know this song. But, they wrote it and, just an incredible writers. That's the one thing about, and I'll say Babyface, he's just incredible at really tapping into what women want to hear. He has just some of the most phenomenal lyrics that, you're like, how do you know these things?
I think one of the best songs he ever wrote was Soon As I Get Home From Work. Now, all the men hated it, but the women loved it.
Don't start me. And you are so right. He just said everything we wanted to have our man say. I don't know how realistic that was, but
I'll buy your rent.
He was definitely getting men in trouble on that one.
Oh, yes, he was.
I'll cook your dinner, everything.
As soon as I get home from work. Okay, brothers, go back and pull that song out. That's exactly what we're looking for today in 2012. Now, Karyn, was singing always a passion of yours, or did you just somehow get into singing? How did your career begin?
Oh, no. Singing was always just entertaining, period. I created, it's so funny because I look back at my childhood and I was so focused and dedicated and, create such an entrepreneur spirit. I remember going to, from PTA and telling them, how can I perform? Can I perform on this night? And just around, having, dancers and just anything that I felt like that could showcase my talent and pulling people together. I've always been a leader in that sense. And then, of course, church and then pageants. And, from then, I was able at 16, the group Motown recording group Switch, they actually put a group together called Legacy, and I was one of the lead singers. And so that was really my first professional gig that I did. We released a single, and just like I said, just being that close to stardom, and you know, being able to really just, like I said, be around like the DeBarges and the, you know, just the whole, you know, Switch family. It was just incredible because I learned so much. And so it just, you know, as a performer, you need those things that kind of make it seem like, okay, it can happen. It's not just a dream. And then living in Los Angeles, I'm so grateful because I was able to really feel like it wasn't just a dream. It could really be a reality because I was really in that world of, you know, being able to physically see professional people doing it and making a lot of waves, selling records and touring.
Were you raised in Los Angeles?
Yes, raised in Los Angeles, and then you know, in high school, I went to school with some of the most incredible, like Bentley Evans, the producer of the Martin Lawrence show and the Jamie Foxx show, and now Who's That Girl? You know, these were my colleagues, Stacey Evans, his sister, and these were the people that, you know, actually, I don't know if Bentley is going to be, I think he may be in my Life After episode, because I know at one point we tried to get him, but I'm not sure if he is. But these are people that just inspired, you know, I inspired them, and, you know, when you see one of your own really like make it, you know, for them it was like, oh, okay, if Karyn can do it, we could do it. And then they've just gone on to do phenomenal things. And being in Los Angeles, you know, it was just, you know, an incredible experience because, like I said, we got to, you know, feel the heartbeat, go through the auditions, and really, you know, friends that were on fame. And it just, you know, it just, like I said, I just knew that it could become a reality because I had a circle of people. When, you know, I went to school with Wendy Williams from the game. You know, these were people that, you know, it was just, you know, doing their thing. So I'm really proud of them. And, it's, you know, it's a really tough business. So a few that are doing it, I just have the utmost respect for any artist that is really going after their dreams, and because that's what it's all about, is to live a life of purpose and living the best life that you feel, you know, is really what your heart says that you want to do.
And that is so true. And I'm so glad you definitely made that point, because especially you become really inspired when you see other people going after their dreams. So you can say, well, why not me? If they're able to do it, I sure can too. So you give hope to other people.
Exactly. And people don't realize, you know, how, you know, they affect, you know I don't. And with this new album that I have out, Being Gone, it's so important because, like, the name of the record of the whole, you know, the CD is Carpe Diem, which is a Latin phrase, and it means to seize the day. And I really just, you know, want people to know that I'm starting over. This is, you know, 18 years being away is like, you know, that's like 2 other careers of someone, you know, so it's really not easy. It's hard, but, you know, what is life without a dream? And I just felt like this is really what I'm supposed to be doing. And I just, you know, my daughter, I raised her through college, and I want to inspire women, especially because I have such a passion for women, and, you know, go back to school and, you know, or either start that business, or if it's singing like me, but I just want them to say, well, if Karyn White can do it, and she left, you know, so can I. So that's really what my whole brand and movement is these days. And is just telling people, you know, you can do it, you know, go after your dreams.
And that's good. And you raised a beautiful daughter off in college, and now you're starting over again. And that's a wonderful testimony for you, because in the beginning also you worked with Jeff Leuber. You was a background soloist for him.
Yes, I did. That was incredible. But before that, I worked with O'Brien and then on Don Cornelius. And I want to say Don Cornelius because he really started me into the business. And most people don't know this. And it was so intimidating at 17 auditioning for him and O'Brien at the time and getting the gig. And then I wound up touring with them. And then from that, you know, then that opened the doors for, you know, auditioning for Jeff Leuber. And you know, so you never know how it's going to come in life. You just keep doing the work. And that's one thing I was kind of trying to assess it, how it was before, in that blind faith of just not looking for the big things, but just doing the work. And then somehow you just wind up, you know, when you do the work, you look, the results kind of show, you know, you just,
right.
And I always tell my daughter that, because I'm like, okay, you're going to college, and Mommy's starting over. It's just like I'm going to college. I'm starting my career over. So she really gets to see it's not because I'm Karyn White or her dad is Terry Lewis. It's work and it's dedication. And I'm glad that she's seeing me at this age do it and working with me, because I think it's only going to help her to see that, what kind of world we live in, and that you just have to take your own career in your own hands these days. And with social media and the way the world is, I mean, you don't have to wait for somebody to say, I'm going to give you anything. You make it happen.
Mm-hmm. I just had that conversation earlier today. That's why I'm just cracking up. I just told someone that you can't wait on anybody. You got to make it happen yourself. You got to create a door. Kick the door in, but create your own door.
Yes, you got to create it. Yep. Thank God for that, because that's so powerful.
It is. You just mentioned Don Cornelius. What did you do with Don Cornelius?
Wow. Okay. Well, Don Cornelius was, he was O'Brien's manager, and
I
so
didn't
therefore, So he, so I auditioned for him, and he was instrumental in my whole career at the beginning. He really helped me financially. He just gave me a lot of words of wisdom. At one point, I was going to be in a group that he was going to put together, and so he was just really like a mentor, like a father figure. And I was able to see him a week before he passed, and I hadn't seen him in years. So, that was just, I felt really blessed to have made, to have seen him in a healthy state. And I got to tell him how much I loved him. And as an adult, I really got to just hug him like a father and just, thank him for everything that he did in my life.
Oh,
because,
I was going to say, I'm glad you gave him his flowers while he was alive. That's a blessing.
Exactly. Yeah. Yep.
Now, did you hear that Magic Johnson is looking to do a movie on Don Cornelius and Soul Train?
No, I didn't know that.
He mentioned that on Wendy
awesome.
Williams. He mentioned that on the Wendy Williams show. So I think that's going to be good. So he's looking to buy those rights to do a story on his life. So I look forward to definitely seeing that, because I believe he bought the rights already to Soul Train for his Aspire network. And I guess he's working on doing the movie now.
Well, he was so underrated, to have the longest syndicated show. I really felt like he really didn't get his just while he was alive. So I'm glad that, that people are, because what he did was really, so instrumental for all of the shows that are out now. He was the grandfather in that sense. So I'm really glad that they're going to show him and his accomplishments, and that's a great thing.
Now, I want to know, how did your professional singing career begin, your solo career? Can you kind of tell us about that?
Say that one more time, sweetie. How did my what?
Your professional solo career begin when you started moving towards Superwoman in your first album?
Oh, yeah. Okay. Well, actually, I auditioned for, Jeff Lorber and Warner Brothers at the time. They were saying, we're looking for artists sort of like what they did with the Patty Austin, James Ingram, Quincy Jones album. They wanted to take Jeff in a more commercial direction, and they wanted to feature artists. And if the singles did, well on the charts, top 10, that, that artist would have, the opportunity to get their own recording contract. Mm-hmm. So at that time, Benny Medina, who was, a young, just vice president of Black Records. I don't know if he was president or vice president at that time, but we had auditioned for him and all of that, and got together, and once the record did what it did, he introduced me to these young guys that were making, had a couple of hits, and that we thought were going to be very promising, and that was L.A. Reid and Babyface. So, it's just. And before that, I worked with a guy named Evan Rogers and Carl Sturken, they actually are the ones who found Rihanna. So this is just such a small business. And a lot of people that I've just been blessed to work with are just powerhouses. I mean, you get a L.A. Reid, a Babyface, a Benny Medina, who, I don't know if you know about his empire, the Tyler Banks show,
yes.
All of that. So these were just the kind of people that I had the opportunity to be blessed with their wisdom. And when I look back on it, I was like, wow, Lord, you really just blessed me to be around some incredible minds. And so I was just excited, and that's how it's happened as my solo artist career is through Jeff Lorber. And I also was writing with Carol Bayer Sager and Burt Bacharach.
Wow.
And, they would set, these are people before, I got with Ellie and Babyface, writing partners with. So that was a dream come true. And so I've just really had some really beautiful times and in the music industry, and just thankful for that.
And you had like 6 #1 singles. Did you expect your album Superwoman, the first and second album, to do so well? Did you have that vision of that and what it was going to do for the music industry? And now your name is still, synonymous with Superwoman 20 years later.
Heck no. I mean, you don't, of course, I had faith. You couldn't tell me I wasn't going to do it. I don't know where, that just was just my faith, and God put that in me. But no, I had no idea, that it was going to be an anthem, and who am I? I'm just, like I said, I'm just grateful. And I just, I believe it was, all destined, and that's how I live life. And it was a season of what I was supposed to do. I didn't do everything right, but, God, put that in me. And I'm glad, because it was, I was a chameleon. I could do, pop. I love to, sing pop and R&B. And so my competition was, Pebbles and Jody Watley, Janet Jackson. But when I sang Superwoman, it took me in a whole nother direction. It's like it gave me a whole, validity of, okay, this isn't just bubblegum, this subject, this is an anthem. And then when Patty and Gladys and Dion did it after the first year, I was like, oh my God, they're going to steal my song from me. You got 3 legends singing it, but they didn't. And, it just really just showed how powerful, the connection that I made with the song. So who knew? You don't know these things.
Because, you know how when people write a song, they'll say, this is going to be a hit. Oh, my God. And the song is a bust. It's not a hit like they thought it was going to be. So that's why I was wondering if you just knew in your heart that this song was going to be a great song. Because not only did you work with 2 great writers, L.A. and Babyface, you ended up marrying a gentleman that was also a great writer, which was Terry Lewis and, of Terry Lewis and Jimmy Jam. It's like, who would have known? But only God knows. He knows everything. And as you move your career forward, now you're putting out a brand new album after 18 years. Kind of tell us about your album and the vision behind your album.
Okay, well, I really didn't, Jay King from Sacramento and acclaimed Club Nouveau and also independent record industry executive. He had a radio show called The Way I See It on Blog Talk Radio, and Monday and Wednesday, and talked about the music business. So I would, in Sacramento, I was doing real estate. I was a developer, a builder, an investor. I was getting my Donald Trump on.
Okay.
I was interior design. I was buying beautiful homes, decorating them, and multi-million-dollar homes, and selling them after 2 years. And the deal that I made with my daughter was, Mommy, I'll do this. I'll move every 2 years, but you can't take me out of my schools, so I had to stay with them in area. And that's what I did, and it was very lucrative. And so singing, I felt, there was a lot of, I don't know, I kind of went through a really dark period in my life. My mom had passed. I got a divorce from the love of my life, Terry Lewis, and it was, a lot of a lot of shame, things that had happened that really just affected who I was, my spirit, and I just kind of really felt like I didn't want to sing. I guess having the most important people, the 2 most important people in your life, lose them at the same time, it took a toll on me. And now that I can look back at it, my sister was saying, you never really sang after Mom passed. And I was like, you're right. So, I just kind of went on and did something else, like I said, the real estate thing. And so coming back, I didn't really, like I said, I had no desire, but I loved the business part of it. And especially when, being around Terry Lewis and Jimmy Jam and, their label, and, I would help with, Mint Condition and some of the, I was just always, I'm a band girl. I really understand musicians, and coming from the Jeff Lorber Foundation Jazz, and I just really, that's really my strength. And so I just didn't really, I felt like I could be behind the scenes. And first of all, I came back to Los Angeles and I started doing reality shows. I would invest in them as a business sense, executive producer. And then after hearing the show, I was inspired to talk to Jay King, and then he kind of started me to see myself. He kind of started showing me who I was and why this made sense, and and I kind of it's interesting how you can suppress something. You can really find an excuse, and that's kind of what I was doing. As long as I had Ashley, my daughter, in school and everything, it made sense for me to be, oh no, but once she graduated and I sent her off to college, I'm like, okay, you're right. Can't use that excuse anymore. And as I started, I used to get such an anxiety. It was really terrible because I would make things so much bigger than what they were. Poor Terry. I mean, my personality was just like, it was just, I have to do these things, and it just I don't know, with such an anxiety that came with, going on stage. And when I would get on stage, everything would be great, but it was just the preparation for it. And, so I just was like, I really want to be behind the scenes. I would prefer to be, helping someone be the artist, helping them with my, me giving them my management, my artist development. So anyway, I wound up, starting to take vocal lessons again. And as I started to just sing and I found that I missed it and everything started to kind of click again. And I was like, oh, Lord, do you really want me to do this? And then, he started pouring into me, what this was all, what it was really about. And, how actually, this was my purpose. And it was all, that I've been in the wilderness for all these years for this day.
Wow.
So, in other words, I'm rising. And, it's so funny because none of the prophets, when you read the Bible, none of them really wanted to go or do what God told them. I mean, they were like, no, Moses, I have a speech impediment. I can't, I'm not this. And, Jonah, they were all, so it's so crazy how God uses, I think the fact that I don't care about being famous is why God wants to use me.
Right.
Because my heart is in the right place.
And that's why it reminds me so of the conversation I had with you 9 years ago. That's why I'm just sitting here cracking up. I'm like, wow, who would have known?
Yeah, because, you can get caught up in the fact of, I want to be famous. And really, that's the least of what I do it for, because that's not even, who cares? I always say, I want to be famous at the bank.
Right. See, and that's what's great. I want them to
come in and say, oh, welcome, Karyn White. We know who you are. You know what I mean? That's all I care about.
Amen. And that's the most. And that's the most important thing. So when can we expect your album? Is your album out now? Do you have a release date for it?
Yes, 22nd. I just signed a distribution deal with my own label. So I'm just doing, God is so good. This time around, there's no way, me coming from the 17 years that I've been doing business, I didn't want to get with a label and sign a 360 deal and do all of this craziness. It made sense for me to, Warner Brothers spent millions of dollars on the Karyn White brand and name, and so therefore, me stepping into it now, we're doing this through Karyn White Enterprises, and I'm excited because this is all, it's all my label and it's a joint venture, and it makes good business sense. And so I've grown not only as an artist, but just, as a legend coming back doing this. I want to inspire other artists to believe in themselves and to do what I'm doing. It's hard work, but these deals that are out right now, they just don't make any sense. You would have to be able to do this, because just financially, it's not making sense to do it the other way.
And that's good that you're willing to give business sense and to really encourage other people, because I think that's where we are now today. People knowing that you can really do it, and you really can do it with the help of others, that you don't necessarily need the backing of a huge label. But if you really get out there and if you pound the pavement and if you work hard, it will definitely pay off.
Yes, you are so right. And that's really, I just have like I said, now I've really understand how business, how finances work. And so that's a big part of what I want to do too with my brand is, women conferences, not just for women, but like I said, women are dear to me and I'm a woman. So I really want, I'm just for these causes of just being an entrepreneur and just where the world is now, and that we really have to get out of our own way and can't be fearful. We really have to embrace this new day, because, it's not going to changed. I mean, it's not going to ever be like it was before. And, the whole internet it's just opened up the world to us, and the world became super small now.
Yes, it did.
We can reach people. Mm-hmm.
And I absolutely love it. So for those who hate the internet, I'm sorry, but I love it. I love social media. I love to be able to connect with people. That's how I connect with people all over the world. So I am a fan of the internet and social media. So I'm that girl. Yes, I am.
Oh, yes. And thank God, because we probably wouldn't have been able, I don't know, I've done so many radio shows and just connected with people that there's no way back then it just wouldn't have happened, so I'm just, and it's just, there's alternative ways other than, radio. Mm-hmm. So that's why I tell my daughter right now, she has a show called the Ashley Lewis Show, and she's building her brand, and that's why I'm like, no excuses, baby. You don't have to wait for, CBS to say you got a show. Start it now.
That's it.
She's like, okay, Mom, I have my show.
Okay, well, look, I love that. If people wanted to follow you, find out more information when your album's going to be out, where they can purchase it, do you have a website?
Oh, of course, yeah, and that's my world. It's KarynWhite.me, and that's KarynWhite.me. It has all of my videos, rehearsals, music you can hear before you can purchase it. Just everything Karyn White is there. And at Twitter, _world. Karyn, it's at Karyn, Lord, I always forget. At Karyn _world, WORLD. So that's my Twitter handle. And I'm on Facebook, under Karyn White Music.
Under Karyn White Music.
Under Karyn White Music.
So we're getting it all down.
We're getting it all. Yeah, see, we have to. Exactly.
Well, I want to thank you so much for coming on the show. And I want to remind everyone to make sure you watch TVOne Life After, airing Monday, October the 22nd at 9/8 Central. The Story of Karyn White. I look forward to watching it. I really do.
Thank you so much. And it was such a blessing talking to you, your spirit, and just what we talked about before. So I just have you hold a special place in my heart, and I can't wait to see what God does with both of us.
Thank you. Me too. And thank you again so much, Karyn. I appreciate it.
Okay. Thank you.